Hey gang, welcome. I'm still here at, well, not still, I'm back here at my easel, still working on this wedding portrait that I started last Saturday night. And as I said earlier, I normally finish these there on the spot, but certainly did not do so this past Saturday. Number of issues that had me a real late start, be that as it may. Here I am still working on it. I'm a little bit embarrassed to show you. I'm showing you the hidden underside of at least my work, my gross imperfections. I suppose if there's any lesson in it at all, it's simply that, okay, when you have to get the job done, you just keep going till you get the job done. And the job in this case is to create a beautiful portrait of these two young people. I described earlier, I'm not going to repeat the whole thing. Earlier today, this is the second round, by the way. I did this entire process already one time today. This is now round two, where I take a picture of the painting, put it next to a, well, now let me start there. I take a picture of the painting, put next to it the photo from which I'm painting. Then up here, I do a mirror image because my eye picks out my mistakes more quickly in a mirror image than it does with the image that relates to that. So on this copy, I make all the notes looking at this photograph. I make a note of everything that needs to change here to match this. Then I transfer all of these markings to this. And now I'm working from this to the painting, okay? And you can say, well, you know, I can just hear people saying, well, I don't have to do that when I do portraits. I just paint it right. I know. That's why this is humiliating to admit that I have to do this sometimes. I don't like to have to work this hard at achieving a perfect likeness. Sometimes I really nail these things quickly and I feel like I am the bomb. When I nail them quickly, I say, dang, I'm good at this. And then something like this comes on and I go, dang, I am not good at this. This is one of those dang, not good type of days. And look at the way I'm holding my brush. I mean, this is just, you know, control freak heaven here. Again, but when you're doing a portrait, as I said earlier today, when you're doing a portrait the size of your thumb, this is almost qualifies as a miniature painting, doesn't it? It's just miniature, almost. And like I said, I've sort of painted myself into a corner with these wedding portraits because more and more they're going this way. Anyway, I can stop complaining and just continue to paint. So I hope you understand my process here. Mirror image. Easier to see the mistakes in a mirror image. But it's hard to paint from this to this. Does that make sense? So instead, I make all my marks here. This needs to move left, right, up, or down. That's the only kind of marks. Again, and I said this morning, you don't say things like rounder cheek, bigger eye. That's not only meaningless language, it's damaging language. You don't want to say no, any anatomical part, nose, chin, cheek, ear, eye, none of those words. You say this line, this mark has to go up, down, left, or right, or at an angle. Got it? Or perhaps darker or lighter. But placement is, for the most part, the big issue. Okay, and so I transfer from this to this, and this is what I'm painting from right now, these notes and looking at this photograph. So I'm closer to a perfect likeness now than I was this morning, the last time I did this. But I have a total of 15 changes I need to make to this face to make it closer. Okay, I've done number 1 and number 3 and number 4. I missed number 2. Let's go back now and get number 2. And again, this would be probably too monotonous for you guys to watch. And by the way, once I look at my note here, like this hairline needs to be moved up about the 16th of an inch, I look over here at the photograph to double check, and that's what I look at. Finally, the most is that part of what's going on here is hairline, as is typical, fade. It is not a hard and sharp line. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3 and 4 I already did, but I'm not happy with them. Let me do them again real quickly. There's a real sweet secondary lighting happening on this face. Can you see this? All the way over here, I know it's a little bit off. See these little highlights right there? 1, 2, 3, 4, primarily, that I really, really like. And I want to retain that. One's off his eyelid here. That one's not quite bright enough, so. Okay, number 3, number 4, number 5, the bottom of his nose has to move up slightly. Oh, by the way, if you follow me very often, then you've heard me say many, many, many times, if you follow me, that the rule is you get dark with transparents, light with opaques, right? If you want some part of your painting to be darker, you use transparent colors. If you want some part to get lighter, you use opaque. I wish everybody understood that. But every rule can be broken. And here's one time where you probably have to break the rule. And the rule is generally with regard to portraits. When it comes to portraits, you can't always get dark with transparent colors simply because the transparent colors are too punchy. They're too intense for the subtleties of a portrait. So here I am doing a dark line on the bottom of his, moving the bottom of his nose about a 32nd of an inch up. And I'm doing it with translucent or opaque paint, because if I tried to do it with transparent paint, it would just be too punchy. Hello, Artist Ross. Good to hear you're encouraging. Did you do a technique, something like this, or did you mean you had to use? I think I catch your drift. Thanks for commenting. I appreciate the company, the commiseration. You know, I said a minute ago, I can hear people saying, well, I don't have to do that. Or really what I hear them saying more is, well, I had a teacher that doesn't, you know, there's a whole lot of people that don't have to do this. And, but I think the greater lesson is here. What do you have to do a portrait? The answer is anything you have to do to get the job done is what you do. That's what you do as an artist. Anything you have to do to get the job done, including, if that includes, finally, tracing, projecting, gridding, measuring of any kind. So at the moment, it hasn't come to that. I know, I brought you guys in. Oh yeah, let me, I guess I'm zoomed in as far as I can get. Let me see if I can get you a little bit closer. A little bit dangerous here. You're right in my way. Let's see if I can do this. Bear with me for a minute. Okay, one of the changes that I made, it's actually the last one here, is I need to move his collar. This is probably the biggest change of everything. I need to move his collar up about a 1/16 of an inch. That's a big change. So I've already done it, but when I did it, you can see thickness of paint underneath. Here's a little trick I want to show you. Okay, here's a tool that I keep on my easel at all times. It's an X-Acto knife, but it is the curved blade. Why? Because the curved blade is perfect for coming in and scraping, shaving thick bits of paint. You can't do this with a straight razor because it'll just cut a hole right in your canvas. Does that make sense? So there's a good little trick that somebody today might need to see. So you can see where I scraped off. Oops, I'm sorry, I did it off camera. There you go. You can see. Let me pick you up and give you a rocky ride for a second. Just hang on. Good grief. Woo, and glue's working well. Okay, do you see the white marks in his collar? That's where I have just scraped off some paint. So now I can come back with that blue paint that I had on my brush just a minute ago. and repaint that, and then it's smooth, and you can't tell that I made a correction there. Okay, good trick. Keep a curved X-Acto blade on your easel for shaving thick paint off when you don't want it. Okay, now back to making corrections. I'm up to I did number 2, 3, 4, 5. I lifted up his nose. There we go. 6. Okay, are you with me? So I guess one of the things I'd like to say too, I'm moving his top lip that way, about 1/200th of an inch.
Put it on your eyes. Yeah.
Okay. Some of you might be saying, "Oh, that's too much work. I don't like to measure. This art is about feeling and expressing yourself." Well, not if you're a money-making artist, it's not. That's what we call starving artists. Artists that express themselves. Okay, there are crazy exceptions to that. Michael Basquiat, who's painting dead, but he died of an overdose of drugs, by the way. But before he died, he painted a bunch of really, really horrendously ugly paintings, and one of them just sold for $187 million, highest price ever paid. I don't know if that's the right number, something like that. Highest price ever paid for an American artist. And he was expressing himself. Yeah, I don't even want to get into the world of modern art. I'm talking about real art here. Art with skill. Man, I'm having a hard time getting this crease visible but not overdone. Overdoing contrast is one of the easiest mistakes to make. I think Mark Carter says it's the #1 mistake that artists make. Okay, I'm done number 7. Now, number 8. Oh, I know, this is a weird one. When I did his eye a little while ago, I thought it looked great. And it does, but it doesn't look like a photograph. So I'm just going to fix it a little bit and make this a straight curve with no undulations sticking out of the curve. Now, one exception to that, there is ever so slight wideness in the curve, or darkness in the curve. Right here. There we go. So slight, you guys can't even see that. I can barely see it. But that's how finicky portraits of this size are. Okay, that was number 8. Number 9. Ooh, I'm pushing his hairline back again. Already pushed it back one time today, and now decided I didn't push it back far enough. I'm going to push it back again. Can you believe that? That's ridiculous. Okay, and now that's way too hard, much too harsh of a line. So let me come in here with some dirt and just mess it up a little bit. Okay, just soften that edge. Soft edges are our friend. And if that line goes back, again, I'm looking at my notes here and looking at the photograph. Nice hairline on this young man. Nice classic hairline at the temples. And again, sideburns a little bit shorter yet. And I already moved his ear one time. That's number 10. Yeah, number 11 now. I already moved his ear one time today, and now I have to move it again. Can you believe that? I moved it quite a bit. More than the 16th of an inch. And here I'm having to move it again. So here we go. Mixing up some pink. Looking at my drawing here and my notes here. I have to move it up again about a 16th of an inch. Up here. I'm going to come and put the highlights. I'm going to redraw the ear in a minute, but for now I'm just trying to get the basic position of it in place. And generally speaking, it's easier to just cover the whole thing with a mid-range red. And also, his ear needs to get raised up. Again, second time today, he's getting his ear raised up. It's a good day if you can get your ear raised twice in one day. Okay, now for the dark color in his ear. Now I'm looking at the photograph. By the way, there are a number of things when you do human beings that you just begin to learn over time. One is that light. Do you see the photograph? Whoops, you can't see the photograph. There you go. Light, the main light is coming from behind his head, right? And when a human being has light coming through the back of their ear, the thin part, the inside curve of this ear right here is, if you want to know, nearly a perfect scarlet lake. Probably also very close to a perfect cad red light. But if you're taking notes, I want to tell you, it's closer to a perfect scarlet lake. Straight out of the tube. It's amazing how red that color actually is. Much more intense than you would think on the human body. You know, we don't think of like pure out of the tube red. But in fact, that's really what it is. I'm going to go ahead and do it right now. Try it. Scarlet Lake. The Scarlet Lake is slightly warmer than cad red. I don't use cads really anymore. There. That looks good. Now all I have to do on this ear is the light highlights. So I'm mixing by very, very pale flesh tone, like a number 1. Just half a tick away from pure white to do these highlights again. I already did all of this one time. By the way, the order that I just did this ear is, I have a lot of company here, by the way, in case you can't tell. Shh. The order is very standard. When you're painting a highly variegated object, you do mid-tone, basically over the whole thing. That's what I did. I did a mid-tone red, a dull dark red, medium dark red, like a number 5, over the whole ear. Then I came back and did dark details, and finally finished with light details. That works if you're doing clouds in the sky, trees, foliage, fur, human hair, and as you can see, human features. Mids, darks, lights, that order. Now, of course, every rule can be broken, of course. Every rule can be broken. But you better know the rule first, and then you'll know when to change it. If you don't know the rule, you're probably just, as I say, you're probably just screwing up. So learn the rules. Where do you learn them? Pay attention to good painters. Now, pay attention to good teachers, first of all. Here's a modification I don't have marked, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm realizing that needs to change right there. Whew. Okay, so his ear is up. That's number 11, number 12, number 13. Oh, this was a big one, and this was a surprise to me. Turns out the back of his head is gone too far that way. That's not my typical mistake. I'm more inclined to accidentally make the back of the head too close to the face. You understand? I'm inclined to make heads too short this way. But sure enough, on this one, I actually made it a little bit too long. As you can tell, I've got a lot of company in my studio, so I hope you're okay with that. Can't be helped sometimes. We have a total of 4. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, perfect color match. That's fun. Okay, I am going to use my left hand here. And by the way, yes, it irritates the fire out of me to be painting with just one hand. So I mean, painting this entire way, this tight stuff. The whole thing is driving me nuts. But as I said, sometimes it just has to. You do what you got to do. Okay, yeah, that looks more like him. I haven't even started refining, by the way. Her hand, you see, is draped over his shoulder. This is her hand. And I haven't even started working on that. I have a separate photograph. I will worry about that later. Okay, that's number 13. Number 14. Oh, here it is. Wow, it's so subtle. I've got to move his bottom jaw that way. Again, about a 128th of an inch. About the width of a pencil line. I mean, that doesn't help you much, does it? Pencil lines come in all different widths. Just trust me, I have to move it. That does give me the opportunity to show you a very important technique. And again, I wish I could zoom in even more so you guys could see what's going on here. Especially in portraiture, when you have to make marks that are so small. For instance, and forgive me, I'm going to try to move you guys again so you can actually see what I'm doing. Forgive all the is that in focus? Not quite. Hang on, bear with me. Okay, I want a slight highlight on his bottom lip. Very slight, but just no matter how skinny I make this mark, that's too fat. Do you see that? That's too thick. So the good news is there's a method, there's a way to fix that. First of all, you put the mark down and then you skinny it up. In this case, whoops, hang on, let me try to get, there you go. This is really awkward, but I've got the color of the background, and that white mark that I just put there, I'm actually going to make it even thinner by painting next to it. Does that make sense? Now you might think, well, how many times do you need to do that in a portrait? The answer is not that, it's not unusual, because what I just showed you, that's enough now, let's stop the earthquake. What I just showed you is the technique for rendering wrinkles on the human face. What you just saw me do, where I put down, in this case it was a white mark, but it was too pronounced, too fat. So I put it down, fat, and then skinnied it up, carved it up by painting on top of it. That's the same way you do wrinkles. If you take, I remember years and years and years ago seeing the cliche, you know, wrinkled old Indian face, right? And somebody had painted the face and then painted the wrinkles. It was awful. Now, at the time, I didn't know what to do to fix it. I just had a sense that the wrinkles were too pronounced. Well, they were, because they didn't know this trick. So I'm telling you this trick. Here's how you do Indian wrinkles. Let's just be racist about this. Here's how, I'm not going to show you, but I'm going to tell you. Here's how you do Indian wrinkles. Mid-tone over the whole area. You know, flesh, Indian skin, red. Now we're really being racist. Red man color. Flesh tone. Yes, that's your base. Then you paint the dark wrinkle. It's way too fat. It's way too intense. It's way too in your face. But you just put it down. Too fat. Then what do you do? Then you go back to your red man flesh tone that you still have mixed up. And you paint up on maybe one or both sides of that wrinkle. You get it skinny. You can get it so, I mean, literally less than a hair's thickness. You can do that. And that's how you do wrinkles. And that's how you do a lot of things. If you're painting, like I do often, a cityscape that has power lines, telephone wires going through the sky, they're really skinny, right? So if you don't usually, you can do it with a palette knife, that's legal, but you can't take a brush and stick out your tongue and do it like I'm doing tonight. Go. Even after doing that, it's going to be too fat. So what you do is you do the sky color, then you do a fat, dark mark. That's the sound of a fat, dark mark. You want to hear it again? Okay. That's a fat line. Then you take that blue sky paint and you paint up on the top and the bottom, or the top or the bottom. You skinny up that line with opaque blue. Does that make sense? So the technique that I just showed you a second ago, use on the white highlight. See that there's a white highlight there now that is so fine. There is no way you could paint that skinny. But it looks good. It looks real. I accomplished it by the technique that I just described. Okay, now let me see. I'm all the way down. That's 14 and 15. Okay, there's just one more thing, according to my notes. One more thing, and that is that underneath his teeth here, it needs just to be a little bit darker. Okay, now, theoretically, I'm done with that man's face. Once again, he looks good. Oh, no, I'm not. I've got a shadow to do. I didn't make that note. I sort of was just, in my mind, I was saying, don't forget the shadow. So let me do the shadow right now. I'm mixing up some semi-transparent. That means translucent, right? I didn't have to tell you that, did I? I insulted your intelligence. Translucent, dark brown. And, look again, look how I'm holding the brush. Yes, this drives me crazy. Yes, I am driving myself nuts. It's a little bit too dark, so let me mix up a slightly lighter version of that. Yes, this is a particular kind of show-off painting, but it's not it's not really good painting. It's, John Singer Sargent, I don't know if he ever did a portrait that was this small, but if he did, I sure as heck would like to know how he did it, because I'm sure he did it way better than I'm doing it. I need somebody to show me how you can do small, teeny tiny portraits. Maybe the answer is just the heck, don't do them. Just don't do them. As I said, I've sort of got myself stuck in the wedding painting industry into doing these gorgeous little nickel-sized portraits of brides and grooms. Now, you just saw me do dark paint on top of light. And if you've heard me before, it's against the law. I'm being kind of facetious. It's against the rules. It breaks one of the breakable laws of the breakable law of painting. The law is don't put dark on top of light. Okay? But there are times, of course, when you have to, right? If you're paying attention to me, and when I say you can't put dark on top of light, if you're paying attention, some part of you should be going, what? That's crazy. You have, right? Okay, but stick with me. Of course there are times when you have to put dark on top of light, but we still don't like it. So what do? The answer is you always come back with the light color. Your last statement, your last hit, your last stroke is light, not dark. And then all is well. Did you catch all that? So anytime you do put light on top of dark, you're not done. You're not done until you come back and do, once again, the light. I said that wrong. Whenever you put dark on top of light, you're not done. You're not finished till you come back and do light on top of dark. Right here, I'm just softening his hairline right here. That's a real razor sharp line right there, which is not accurate, not pleasant. Neither accurate nor pleasant. Same thing here. Just his hairline needs a little softening. While I'm at it, I've got my attention focused on soft hairline edges, and I'm saying, wait. This in front of his ear is also too hard, way too hard right here. I do know this, that even especially in portraiture, too many hard edges is death to the portrait. So you do not want too many hard edges. I'm all the way back now to Scarlet Lake. Got another highlight of red. Not quite as intense as the other one, but still pretty darn red. Pretty close to straight out of the tube. See, that is crazy. I mean, that's a good ear. Let me bring you in close, just so you can see the color there. Stay with me. Back up a little bit. There you go. See that redness? As an artist, when you fixate on it, you go, dang, that's too red. But in fact, when you look at the photograph, you go, wow, no, it's not. That red is actually accurate, and it's hitting the eye well. I am 90, and I think this is my last time around on this young man's face. I think I will know tomorrow morning when I look at it with fresh eyes. If I look at it tomorrow morning and go, whoa, dang, I did a good job, then I'll be done. There's about a 50% chance that I won't do that. It's about a 50% chance that I go, pretty good, but you know what? I want to fix blank. There'll be some blank that I want to fix. In any case, whoops, I'm sorry, I'm off. There you go. In any case, that's a really nice looking human face, and it looks quite a bit like the man. So, okay, now, whoops, wait. There's this, I guess I'm going to leave it. There's this weird thing. He's got a dark part on the top of his lip, but he has it in the photograph. It's even darker in the photograph than it is in the painting. So I'm just going to trust that it's there. I'm going to leave it there. Now, let me go back to Mark Carter. If you're not familiar with Mark Carter, you should look him up and watch his stuff. He's extremely generous. He's put basically all of his class, all of his teaching online. So have I, but just not in an orderly manner like he has. One of the things he says, the most common mistake made in portrait painting is that you over-exaggerate contrast. We artists, we tend to make the color changes in our portrait sharper than they are in real life. So he says, make a note, write a note to yourself and stick it up over your easel. He said, is my painting more contrasty, or something like that? Is my painting more contrasty than the photograph? And he says, if it is, fix it. And I literally did that. I wrote that note and I had it on top of my easel much of this past year. Thank you, Mark Carter. And the name is C-A-R-D, D as in dog, C-A-R-D-E-R, not Carter, like Billy, like Johnny Cash and June Carter. No. This is Carter with a D. Let me do one final thing. Of course, that's the famous last words, right? Just one final thing. I promise, just one last thing. I think it's going to be, and that is I want just a little tiny bit of highlight on the back of this man's head. And I want it to be soft, so I'm going to put it down first, and then I may smear it a little bit second. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And there's a little bit right there. It's just catching the hair coming out of his cowlick right there. Very handsome young man, I might add. And a beautiful young woman. She needs more work in my painting. I'm being more fair to him at the moment than to her. So, done. I think that might be about as good as I can do today. Tomorrow I will be a better artist, so I can do better tomorrow. But today, that's all I can do. So let's move on to the girl. There we go. And by the way, you see this nifty system I have where I've suspended my clipboard right next to the faces. I don't know how you can be an artist and not be a bit of a handyman tinkerer. I don't know how you could possibly do it, because I need all of my tinkering tricks. I use every single one in the act of being an artist. Okay, so here we go. Move it over a little bit. Hang right there. Oh, I wanted to hang it down a little lower, so bear with me for a minute while I make an adjustment up here. Okay, there we go. Ooh, this looks ugly. This looks horrible, by the way, doesn't it? Look at it. And likewise, I have 14 different modifications to make to her face. Doggone it. I'm a little disgusted with myself. But the first one they're going to make is the biggest one, and it's huge. I actually have the bridge of her nose in the wrong place. Boy, if anything will screw you up, faster than a misplaced bridge. Whew, I don't know what it is. That really, really messes you up. So major change to this girl's face. And of course, here we go. I'm hoping that I can move it over the right amount, which is, again, less than 1/16 of an inch. I would say more than a 32nd. Beyond that, I don't use numbers. And beyond a 32nd of an inch, it's just a scrunch. I just moved it over a scrunch. But that means also I need to move over the highlight, the reflection on her nose. And I told you not to use anatomical terminology, didn't I? But I'm using it so you know what I'm talking about. Internally, I'm not thinking about noses. I'm thinking about lines. But I'm talking to you guys, so I'm using anatomical terms so you know what I'm working on. Okay, that's number one. Whew. Number two, if the bridge of her nose is moving over, then so also is her nostril. You bet. Nostril moving to the left. Let me take a minute again, and forgive me for all the earthquakes I'm giving you today, but this time I'll pick up my clipboard instead of. Okay, I want to, let me find something to point with. Okay. Okay, they're ugly, right? But every one of these, for instance, this says number 6 down here, and there's an arrow pointing up. The arrow, the angle of the arrow, tells me that line needs to move up. Okay, that's what I mean. To make changes on a portrait, every point of reference, now light and dark is another issue. You do have to have the values close. But that's not the problem here. The problem is not values, it's placement. And everything either moves north, south, east, or west, or some division thereof. Does that make sense? And that is the way you think as a portrait. You do not say inside your brain, you do not say words like pudgy. Right now, people who are not artists, like if you ask a non-artist to critique your portrait, they will use words like, well, the nose looks a little too blank. You know, the nose looks a little too flat, or the nose looks a little too pudgy. The nose looks a little too round. Please, do you know what I'm talking about here? All that language, not only is it meaningless, now if a non-artist is saying, you have to translate it into meaningful, but if that's your internal dialogue as an artist, not only is it meaningless, it's actually damaging. Because as soon as you say the word, any anatomical part, cheek, nose, chin, eye, eyebrow, eyelash, blah, 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 blah. As soon as you say that word, your filing cabinet of SSSOS, super simple survival oriented symbols. That's the reason people can't see what their eyeballs are pointed at, because that's a long story. I've given it many times, not going to give the whole thing. But we reduce everything in the visual world into super simple symbols to help us navigate quickly. That's why we can drive down the freeway at 85 miles an hour without a great deal of fear, because we know exactly what to look at. At least mature drivers do. Immature drivers, not so much. Okay? So if you say nose, what comes up in your brain is your SSSOS, your super simple survival oriented symbol for nose. You know, Dick Tracy triangle or whatever. Yours is better than that because you're an artist, but still. So you don't use that language because it makes you blind. Instead, you're saying this line right here needs to move up, down, left, or right. Okay, I've beat that dog to death. Let's get back to painting. Okay, but I wanted you to see my notes and see that that's exactly what my notes are doing. They're saying up, down, left, right, little arrows. Okay, number 1. Number 2, I haven't finished yet. I talked about it, I haven't done it, which is nostril. nostril moving to the left. That is a little too intense, I think. I've got to fix something else while I'm here, and that is that the reflection at the end of her nose now, is too long because I moved it to the left. Plus, I want to add a little bit of red to the end of her nose, a little bit more realistic. We've talked before about how light, bright light, infuses flesh, infuses skin. And here, let me show you real quick. Again, I don't want to get off on a huge thing, but here's my whoops. Here is my Swiss Army knife flashlight. Okay, let me turn this off and put this little flashlight, little tiny light. See, put it on my finger. Okay, can you see that? I think you can. Yes, you can, certainly. I'm sorry, I'm going to get it. Hang on a second. There we go. There, do you see my flesh is literally glowing? Right? Let's do it. There. Never mind. I can put it inside my cheek. You got the idea, right? When sunlight, forgive my crazy shenanigans. When sunlight hits, or bright light in this case, hits a person's flesh, it not only bounces off the surface of their skin, some of the light goes into the tissue and turns the tissue essentially into a light bulb, a red light bulb, right? So that's what I'm thinking right here. Whoops, sorry about that. When I'm doing, suddenly this dear Samantha is her name, when I'm doing her nose, I looked at the photograph and just said, yes, we have a little bit. So where this glow that I just showed you, that I just demonstrated to you, where it will show up is always adjacent, right next to a highlight. Like, so there's a highlight on her nose, therefore red is going to show up. Since the light's coming from this way, it's going to be light highlight, then red glow, then shadow. It comes right between this red glow comes between the highlight and the shadow. So if you'll look, I don't see this in the photograph, but I know just from my experience that I can safely put a slightly red edge right along there. And sure enough, it makes her flesh look more alive. Another way to say it is all of the highlights in your skin tones, all of your highlights should be circumscribed. That means surrounded by a pinkish color, a pinkish highlight. Okay, but I'm getting off. Let's go back now to number 1, 2, number 3. Now that I moved, and I'm not going to keep you guys here watching me forever. Many more have left than have gotten on. I need to raise this eyelash just a tiny bit over there. Okay. Number 3, number 4. Oh, I went all the way down here. This line right here is too curved, so I need to straighten that out just a little bit. By the way, let me point you to my palette just for a minute. It's a brand new palette, by the way. I mean, a new glass because my old glass broke. And I've got this, I'm trying this color. It's a little bit more red and orange than I really wanted, but I'm actually enjoying it quite a bit. But just see, again, I'm not orderly. Like Daniel Green and other artists, they recommend creating, and I understand why, and I don't disagree with them, but evidently I'm just not that compulsive, which is unusual for me. They'll do, dark, all these rows of flesh tones from dark to light, dark to light, dark to light, dark to light, dark to light. I don't do that. As you can see, I just end up with this hodgepodge. All of these are flesh tones. And so I guess in this regard, I'm not obsessive compulsive, which again, a little bit unusual for me. I just continually, I look down and say, where's the closest color that I need right there? And that's what my palette. Don't you be like me. I'm not showing you this so you can copy me. I just want you to see what it looks like. And by the way, I put the same colors out on my palette every day, same colors in the same location, whether I'm doing portraits or cityscapes. You know, none of this paint will dry in one day, so I'll put it back in the freezer tonight and all will be well. Okay, that's my palette. Let's get back to painting. I'm up to number 4. Okay, that's right. I was trying to create a dark, just the right degree, and this mark right here needs to be just a little straighter. There. Okay, it's number 4, number 5. Oh, this is a big one. This is a big one. Her top lip needs to go up. The whole lip. Again. How much? About a 64th of an inch, I would say. This is nerve-wracking. This one right here is nerve-wracking. So she should look really ugly for a minute. And then I need to move the highlight reflection in her top lip. Need to move that up as well. And then she's going to look horrible for just a minute. She doesn't look too horrible. Be that as it may. Okay, now let me... I'm going to... She ought to look horrible. A little Naphthol Crimson, which is a dark, cool color. By the way, here's another funny one. What color would you think most people's lips are? A reddish color is correct. It is a reddish color. But would you guess, you might not be like me, you might get this right. Would you guess that most people's lips are a cool red or a warm red? That is, are the lips tending toward a purplish red or an orange-ish red? Now, I would have said an orange, because our flesh tone is usually brownish, and brown has more orange than it does purple, right? So I would have thought lips are usually a warm red, but my observation has taught me the exact opposite, that lips tend to be a decidedly cool, that is to say, Naphthol Crimson-ish red, rather than Scarlet Lake red. Now I'm supposed to raise the top of her teeth just a little bit. Let me look at the photograph again really carefully. See if I agree with this. I think I do. Okay, now her teeth should be too long. In other words, when you move a feature, you start at the top, move the top line up, then the next line up, then the next line up, then the next line. Do you see what I mean? I've got a mouth here. How do you? It's not that hard to move a feature. We tend to freak out and think, oh no, I have to move her whole eye. It took me an hour to do that eye. But it'll probably take you 10 minutes to move it. Let's say you have to move the eye up. You take the topmost edge and you raise it up, then the next edge, raise that up, next, 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 and you're done. And that's what I'm doing exactly on her mouth right now. And I tell myself that repeatedly because, like you, when I think, oh no, I have to move her entire mouth. Oh no, I worked on that for an hour. Yeah, well, it'll probably take you 10 minutes to move it. 12 or 15 at the most. So don't cry, don't panic, don't get yourself another beer. Just buckle down and get her done. Okay, but yeah, thankfully she does look a little too buck-toothy, a little too toothy right here. So I'm going to shorten her teeth. Oh, a scant 128th of an inch, if anything, if even that. Okay, according to my notes, the bottom of her mouth is supposed to stay right where it is, according to my notes, but I'm having a hard time with that. It's not looking right, so I'm actually going to move the bottom of her mouth up ever so slightly. So again, I'm reaching for my Naphthol Crimson, my cool red. That is, it has more purple in it than orange. Mixing it with my flesh tone brown. And come in here and raise up. Okay, now I need to move up the... You get the picture? Part of, I guess, if I'm teaching anything tonight, is just perseverance, man. Suck it up, get her done, just keep going. And it's 10 o'clock at night here, nearly 10 o'clock. And I've had a long day's work, and my day's work is not over. And I still have to practice my trumpet. I cannot go to bed without practicing. So I'll be practicing with a mute, because when you practice at night, you can't make noise for everybody. So yeah, trumpet is the noisiest of the instruments that I play. We have a lot of people in our house right now. My mother-in-law, our kids, and their 4 kids. So it's a full bit of a zoo around here for the next couple weeks. Okay, I'm gonna. My notes end there. Here's another slight change. Her smile crease, her smile line over here needs to move up and be a little bit more contrasty right there. And that's way too contrasty. So again, you mix up a neutral tone and come in here and diminish what you just did, right? All the painters ever watch this go, yep, that's exactly what you do. You just keep going till you get it right. Got it? And when I watch now again, I don't always have to do it this long. Sometimes I knock out a portrait, man. And like I said earlier, I think, dang, I'm good at this. I am good. And then one comes along like this, it kind of shivers your timbers. You think, dang, I guess I'm not very good. So I've got I know I sound arrogant. I make jokes about that all the time sometimes, but I've actually got plenty to be humble about. Plenty to be humble about. Craftsmanship creates its own humility. The striving for excellence brings with it its own doses of humility, because we all realize how far short we fall of our own ideals. I'm not talking about morally here. I'm just talking about trying to do excellent work. I am not terribly happy with that mouse, which does not make me very happy at all. Need to move the top of her teeth up, I think. Oh, that helped. And then the bottom of her teeth, way over here on the left, there's just a little bit of a hang down that I need to remove. I could almost be using a magnifying glass right now. Okay, 7. I'm gonna stop here. I'm probably boring some of you to tears. No, that's not true, because you just leave. All the people who left crying, they're already out of here. Who am I kidding? Anyway, I'm going to finish this without your presence. And as I said, I'm going to finish all the notes on her face tonight. Then I'm going to go practice my trumpet with a mute in it. And when I come out here tomorrow morning, I've still got plenty of work to do. Thank God I'm being paid decently for these portraits. I'd really be irritated. It's got to be done. It's got to be done right. So you just keep going till you get it right. That's today's lesson. Okay. Thanks you guys for watching. Appreciate it. If you like it, subscribe, like it, share it with a friend. Thanks. Leave